Good morning and welcome to the show. You're going to get two videos from me today. The first is going to be this one. I want to react and I want you to come along and watch the interview that Rachel Reeves did with Andrew Marr yesterday after her press conference at 8 a.m. He pressed her on some questions and her answers were very interesting. It definitely foreshadows what is going to happen in a couple of weeks' time when the budget is announced on November 26th. The second video you're going to get from me will be three things that I think you have to do before or after the budget on November 26th, just to give you as much financial resilience as possible. These will be practical tips. That video will land towards the end of the day today. But let's just jump into this interview with Andrew Marr. And as always, if you do get value from this, I would really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. We're trying to get to 80,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're about 70,500, almost 600 at this point in time. We've got a long way to go, but we can do it with your help. And if you do enjoy it, also smash the like button as well, because that will just mean that other people get to see this video as well. Right, let's just jump straight into this. And I'm telling you, this is really fascinating.
Can I ask, in a sense, why we're doing this? I can't remember any chancellor who has done a big speech and press conference and so forth 3 weeks before a budget. What is it you're trying to achieve?
So I want to be honest with people, level with people about the challenges we face. This is a great country. It's a country that businesses are queuing up to invest in. It's a country where other nations around the world are queuing up to do trade deals with us. But I think people recognise that the last few years, our economy's been through the mill. We had austerity, then we had a botched Brexit, we had Liz Truss's mini budget, and then, of course, there's external events like the COVID pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, what I set out today is what will be the biggest part of the budget, which is the Office of Budget Responsibilities reassessment of productivity. Now, it sounds very technical, your view of total factor productivity, but it actually has real meaningful consequences
It's a
for the
problem for
economy
you
and
and
the
it's a
public
problem for
finances.
the country.
Okay, so I think it's worthwhile just mentioning there. She said, what will be the biggest part of the budget? The biggest part of the budget. So this is foreshadowing the conversation that they're about to have, but definitely foreshadows the implications of what's going to happen on November 26th.
Let's be absolutely straight. You are going to have to raise taxes.
Well, look, I think
He's straight in there, straight down the barrel, right at her, being very, very direct. And just look at how she tried to not answer the question directly.
I was
That's
pretty
what today
clear
means, doesn't it?
today that the productivity downgrade, it's not that I accept that productivity has to be like that. I'm determined to defy those forecasts, but you can't just sideline a forecaster because, we know what happens when you do that. That's what Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng did, and it caused absolute misery because interest rates went up, inflation went up, and ordinary working people paid the price for that. So
We have all been there before. We know that's a real problem. But the truth of the matter is you want to turn things around, you want to get productivity up. But in the short term, at least, you have to raise taxes.
Well, I'm going to set out the individual tax policies and on spending as well.
All right, so there she goes, asking direct, you're going to have to put up taxes. She goes, we're going to set out the individual tax policies, which means that this is the clearest indication. There will be tax rises on November 26th. There will definitely be tax rises. And if you think that's not going to be possible, this is telling us everything that we need to know right now in terms of the way she's thinking and what is coming down the track.
The budget. That's
I'm
not
sorry,
what today was about. What
I'm
today was
not asking about individual measures.
Mhm.
I do understand that. I'm just asking overall, in terms of borrowing and the macro picture, you have to raise taxes.
well, I think
The stutter. Okay. Again, he's asking very direct questions for the third time. You're going to have to raise taxes. She doesn't want to explicitly say yes, but she is going to provide an answer that skirts around it, implying a yes, in my opinion.
I was pretty clear today.
I was pretty clear today.
The circumstances that we had a year ago they are different today because of this. And I've been clear, there's not going to be a return to austerity. We're not going to cut capital spending because that's what previous chancellors did, and that's why we have such weak productivity. And I'm not just going to borrow more. And so, of course, we are rooting out waste and inefficiencies in public spending. But of course, we are going to look at taxes as well. But I'll set all that out. What I wanted people to know today is the principles that will guide me when I make those decisions.
So essentially, what she's basically saying here, let me just go full screen quickly. What she's saying here is that we've set out an argument for why we're going to have to make difficult decisions. She's talking about she's not going to cut capital expenditure, but they are looking to increase efficiencies. Now, when I look at the comment section yesterday, and of course, a lot of the other videos on the channel, since we've been speaking about the budget, there has been a lot of people pointing out inefficiencies in the government, the waste, the red tape, the bureaucracy, and how much that costs from a financial point of view. And I think this is a valid thing to be concerned about, particularly as it's tax money. It's our money being used to pay for these things for in a manner that feels like there is no accountability for the pounds that you spend. It just feels like you can just shake the tax tree and more money comes out. And so when she says this, it's like, okay, great, you're going to root out inefficiencies. Me personally, though, and I don't know whether you agree with this, I would like to see how they're improving inefficiencies. That would be great to see. Publish something to say we've been able to, save or make some inefficiency, make spending more efficient through these measures, to actually demonstrate to the people that you're doing something. Because all the time that they say this, whilst tax rises are on the horizon, I don't think anybody really believes them, really, to be honest. I mean, do you?
Getting NHS waiting lists down, getting the cost of living down, and getting our national debt down. Those are my priorities. And I hope people will judge me against those at the budget in a few weeks' time.
In terms of principles, because that's absolutely crucial, I've noticed a big change in language. You used to talk all the time about those with the broadest shoulders. And today you said, if we are to build the future of Britain together, we will all have to contribute to that effort. Each of us must do our bit.
Now, this right here is so key because the language has changed. Those with the broadest shoulders, if you remember, it was an indication that they were going to go after people who earned more money. And at that juncture on the channel, I made a video where I talked about the fact that we need to be very careful with how this is received as a political message, because ultimately those with the broader shoulders doesn't necessarily mean the uber wealthy. Those with the broader shoulders, in the public's domain at least, I think is deemed to be those people earning over £100,000 a year. And yes, earning over £100,000 a year is fantastic. You are doing extremely well. But those aren't necessarily the people with the broadest shoulders. And so the language has changed. It's gone from those with the broadest shoulders are going to have to contribute more to all of us are going to have to do our part, which signals the fact that now they are looking at taxes that will impact working people.
Can you decode that for me?
Well, I will set out the individual measures, and you can judge me on those. But I'm a progressive. I believe those with the broadest shoulders should pay the most. And I think you can judge me on my record, Andrew.
Of course.
Like the budget last year, we got rid of the non-dom tax, so you can no longer be a non-dom. There's no such thing now in the tax code. With taxes on VAT, business rates on private schools, taxes on private jets, increasing capital gains tax. Getting rid of the carried interest loophole for private equity.
But now your language has changed. Now you're
I wouldn't read too much into that.
Well, you're saying each of us.
I love that he keeps pressing her. And it's very skillfully done because it's very easy to listen to this and think, oh, she's explaining, but no, she'd sidestep it. She's not actually answering the question directly, and he keeps pressing, which I think is great.
Us must do our bit. If there was a more blunt way of saying I'm going to raise income tax, I can't think of it.
Well, look, I will do the individual measures, and that's not what today was about. That's not what I was trying to do today. But of course, I will want people, when they look at that analysis of the distributional impact of the budget, last year's and this year's, I want people to see that I am a Labour Chancellor progressive Chancellor, and that distribution analysis will back that up.
Last year, almost to the day, you said this: we are never going to have to do a budget like this again. This was a once in a parliament reset. What has changed in just a year?
Yeah, so look, that was a once in a parliament reset. When I became Chancellor, there was a black hole in the public finances. The reserve, which was supposed to be for genuine emergencies, was spent 4 times over just 3 months into the financial year. And that is what I was sat down and told by the most senior officials at the Treasury in my first weekend in the job. And so I had to fill that black hole. Because
So this won't be as bad, if you like.
no, and it also is a very different circumstances. And last time I was, clearing up that fiscal mess. But last year I did a budget in good faith based on the productivity numbers produced by the Office of Budget Responsibility. A Chancellor can only do their budget based on the independent forecast.
I'll give her a little bit of credit. She is right. She can only do based on what's in front of her. But she's talking as though there is, like, the black hole's disappeared. The black hole still exists. And actually, they added to the black hole themselves in that last budget. And they expect that we would almost just forget that's what they did. And so everything she's saying here, I can give her credit on one thing, but at the same time, it's like you're talking in circles, and to a certain extent, I think it's a little disingenuous because you think that people are going to forget what you did to contribute to the black hole.
And since then, they've done a reassessment, and they'll set out why that is, and why this was the time to do it, and also the extent of that reassessment. But what that reassessment consists of is looking at data from the past and seeing whether it was stronger or weaker than what they forecast. And I think you can see the data for yourself that productivity has come in lower than they expected over the last few years. And they use that past data to predict the future. Now, we shouldn't be defined by our past. I believe that we can beat those forecasts. I'm determined to do so, but I have to prove that before I can bank on it. And that's why I always say, continue to say, my number one priority is to grow the economy with good jobs and productivity in all parts of the country. But we've got to deliver that growth. We've had the fastest growing economy in the G7 in the first half of this year, but growth is not yet strong enough. We need to double down on that with the planning reform, the regulatory reform, and the pensions reform.
If you loaded taxes on business, you would kill any chance of getting that growth in the year ahead.
Well, taxes isn't the only thing that affects business sentiment and business investment. There was a lot of scare stories a year ago when we increased national insurance, and I recognise that was
employment has gone down, hasn't it? A lot of people have stopped hiring because of that.
Actually, employment this year in 2025 is 350,000 higher today than it was at the beginning of the year. Retail sales for the last 4 months have improved. They've surprised on the upside, and the IMF just last month revised up their forecast for growth for the UK this year and say we're going to be the second fastest growing economy in the G7 for this year as a whole. So I wouldn't believe all the doom and gloom. There's loads of brilliant stuff going on in our country. Businesses hiring people, businesses.
See, I would be really interested to know when she says, jobs are 320,000 more than this time last year when she delivered the autumn budget last year. I would like to see how those numbers are broken down, because are those people in high paying jobs, or are those people in low income jobs? There's a huge difference, right? You can have more people in the workforce, but if you think about it from an individual point of view, if you're in a low paying job because you've had to leave a high paying job because you got made redundant, there is no progression for you as an individual citizen in the country. And this is where numbers can be very, very misleading, because they will state at a very, very high level, but you won't know what the details are until you actually sit there and actually look through the dissection of those numbers to understand the full picture that it's trying to paint. And so I find that really interesting. It's a great kind of like headline to throw out there. Jobs are 325,000, no more than they were last year. But what does that actually look like in reality?
What I don't want to do is to get into the silly game where I ask you about lots of taxes and you say, Andrew, you're going to have to wait to the budget. So I'm not saying that.
Oh, good.
But I am saying that you and the Prime Minister made some very solemn promises to the British people at the time of the election. If, hypothetically, you break those promises, you will never get that trust back, will you?
I think people want to understand what we're doing and why. People voted Labour last year because they were sick to the back teeth of the previous government and their mismanagement, and then putting party interests
I think people are sick to death at the moment of Labour. They've what been in there for a year. Um, it's funny how time flies and things change and sentiment changes based on a situation that you're presented with that you've got to deal with. And I think she's in a very difficult position as Chancellor, making very, very difficult choices. I know that I definitely would not want her job. She can have it because it doesn't matter what she does. There is no right or wrong here. You're not going to be able to please everyone. You're going to have some people who love you for it, some people who are going to absolutely hate you for it. I don't think there is a person in the country right now who would love her for anything that she's about to do. So this job is just it's a thankless job. You're never going to be able to appease people. And that's the bit of sympathy that I do have for her in the fact that she's damned if she does, she damned if she doesn't.
above the national interest. Now, look, I'm sure that I could fiddle the numbers and move things around to meet the letter of the rules, but not the spirit of
You
them.
could dodge through, but you're not going to dodge
Just,
through. Yeah.
you know what I could do, and it's what previous chancellors do. They say that big capital project, the nuclear power station, the Northern Powerhouse rail, the 1.5 million new homes.
Put it all off.
Put it back a couple of years. Massage the figures. Of course, he could do that. Chancellors have done it before. Do you know why we're in the mess we're in now? Because that is what they did. And I am not going to do it because one day I won't be in this office, Andrew. One day I won't be in this office. I won't be Chancellor anymore. And I want people to look back and what did Rachel achieve when she was Chancellor of the Exchequer? And I want to have left this country in a better state. And that is something, frankly, that the last two Chancellors haven't been able to say.
Fair comment to her. I think what she said there is absolutely true. We've seen it. Probably one of the reasons why we are in a position where we are right now, and the fact that, yeah, big capital expenditure projects, push that back. We'll deal with it later on. And it's a constant kick in the can down the road, right? The problem with that is at some point you're gonna have to pick up the can and deal with a can that will now be battered. And yeah, again, very tough choices to make.
On that very theme, let me say something that interviewers don't normally say, which is that I think of all the bad choices that may be ahead of you in terms of taxes, actually raising income tax for everybody by a modest amount may be the least bad choice you could make. However, you did make that promise, as did Keir Starmer. So it's been suggested to me what you could do is you could say to the British people on Budget Day, look, things are really bad. The headwinds have been harder. The situation has been stronger, worse than I thought. Therefore, I have to raise income tax. But I promised you I wouldn't. So tomorrow I'm going to resign as Chancellor of the Exchequer, having done the right thing. That would be I'm not going to behave like the last lot. I'm not going to play those games. I'm going to be honest and honourable.
And what do you think would happen?
Oh, okay. Look, great question. I've not seen this, so I'll be interested to hear what her response is going to be. But great question. What do you think? What do you think she's going to say? Obviously, she's not going to give up her job, but I'd love to know what her train of thought is with being presented with that question.
In financial markets if I did that?
It depends who took over, I guess.
Oh, come on, Andrew. You know, look, I have been able to build a reputation
You'd have done
that
the
I
right
can be
thing.
trusted with the public finances. I've steered this country, our economy, through some challenging times the last 15 months. Increases in global tariffs, increases in volatility, increased tensions around the world, and yet our bond yields are lower than they were a few months ago and have outperformed our peers. The FTSE is close to record highs. Our economy in the first half of this year was the strongest growing in the G7. So I am not going to walk away because the situation is difficult. I was appointed as Chancellor to turn our economy around, and I am absolutely determined to finish that job.
So is
Okay, listen. So this is where I'm going to hand this over to you, right? Based on what she just said, she's just given a track record. The economy is doing better. Our bond yields are lower. She said she was given the trust of the people. I know what the I know what people are going to say in the comment section down below, but here's the question nonetheless. Do you trust her? Do you rate the job that she's done? And do you trust her moving forward to do the right thing? Let me know in the comment section down below, because I think it's all very well and good trying to say we had a mandate to do this and I've been responsible for this, but you're not directly responsible for it. Yes, circumstances may have conspired to have bond yields be as low as they are. Are you directly responsible for that? Or are there other factors that maybe are a hangover from the previous government that have contributed to that? I know that politicians will always take credit for something that happened within their term specifically, but is that true? I don't know. I don't know that people have trust in her. We'll see in the comment section, I guess, but let me know.
Is the message to your critics: judge me in 3 years' time, judge me on the whole piece, the whole parliament, and see what I have achieved.
Yes, but of course, people will judge me on my budget as well. And I hope that when they see the choices I make in that budget, that we have prioritised growth to get us out of the low productivity, low wage spiral that we risk falling into, that we've done that in a fair way, and that we're tackling those triple challenges of the cost of living, NHS waiting lists, and too high national debt. And I believe we can make progress in all of those areas despite the challenges that have come our way this last year.
You've got different audiences today.
Okay, listen, I'm going to leave it there basically. I'm going to, just I will link this full thing because I think there's probably about how many minutes left in here? There's another 5 minutes or so of questions that Andrew Marr poses to her. But I don't want this video to be too long. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Okay, give me your thoughts. I think this does signal higher taxes. Income tax is definitely going to get increased for sure. I'll be very, very surprised if it doesn't, alongside some other taxes. How bad will it be? Nobody knows. We'll have to wait and see on November 26th. But this has been very, very interesting. The second video you're going to get from me will be 3 things that you need to do before and after the budget to ensure that you're able to build some financial resilience. That will drop at the end of the day today. So please hang around, come back and watch that video because it will be very, very helpful. I'll do a scribe and just give you some really practical tips that I think are going to help you, because financial resilience is going to be absolutely key. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to smash the like button as well. I appreciate you, and I will see you later on today.